Hi. When I was in grade school, my teachers often exclaimed, "Pay attention." Of course, I was always paying attention, but not necessarily to the teacher. I was always paying attention to something. Sometimes I was paying attention to the nice spring weather outside the window, or to the birds chirping out there, or paying attention to the antics of a fellow classmate in front of me. Now, the teacher really meant that she wanted us to pay attention to her. That example speaks to two things about us human beings, two parts of the puzzle that makes us who we are. The first is that we cannot not pay attention. We're always paying attention, unless, of course, we're unconscious. Our attention is always directed somewhere. Now, the second fact is that we have some control about where we place our attention. These two things may seem pretty obvious, but it's amazing how often we find ourselves helpless about where our attention goes and what effects that has on our attitudes and emotions. We're creatures of habit, and when we do something repetitive, like driving a car, for instance, we tend to shift our attention away from the repetitive action and allow the habit to take over. Now that works pretty well when everything goes as planned or goes normally. But when something out of the ordinary happens, like another car swerving in front of us, for example, our attention may not have time to snap back to the driving in order for us to avoid the accident. Keeping our attention focused on the driving can be life-saving. There are also certain things that almost automatically grab our attention, and it's helpful to be aware of these things so that we're free to pay attention or not, if needed. The advertising industry knows this very well, and it expertly designs commercials to grab and maintain our attention. Things like movement and bright colors and attractive things like people and nature scenes, etc., or louder than usual sounds, or memorable experiences like old movies and songs, emotional scenes like a mother holding a baby or two people in love, or shocking things like murders, scary images, and all that. Those are just a few of the things that advertisers use to get us to pay attention to their products. Now, being aware of this helps us to be free to buy products for more important reasons than just because they have slick advertising. As human beings, we're also predisposed to pay attention to ideology, philosophies, political platforms, and news stories that reflect what we think and believe, or what we want to think and believe. A simple example of this tendency is when a person is thinking of buying a certain make of car, and they start to notice more of the cars of that make and model on the road, even though there really aren't any more of those cars on the road. But their attention tells them there are. Now, being aware of our tendency to do things like that can help free us from slavery to a single tunnel vision view and help us come to a greater understanding of the world around us. Now, when we're not aware of our ability to focus our attention where we want it, we're kind of like a dog that pays attention to its owner until it sees a squirrel, and then it's off to the races. ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a diagnosis given to a person who cannot or will not keep attention focused on one thing for any length of time. Some psychologists believe that kids are being conditioned for this disorder by the hyper speed of images to pay attention to on electronic devices. So how do we maintain control of our attention instead of letting it control us? Well, first of all, Knowing that we are susceptible to all of the things I just mentioned is helpful. It allows us to know when and how our attention might be hijacked. And we can then be ready for that and take precautions about that. It allows us to know when our attention can be, taken away from us. And when we're trying to improve any skill, there's no substitute for practice. That applies to managing our attention also. Now, a simple way to practice maintaining attention is to focus on one thing for a length of time. For instance, I can pay attention to what I'm hearing at the moment, and only that. Just noting each thing I hear, keeping my attention there. That's a practice. Or I can look at one object, like a candle or an object on the table, and simply maintain my focus and attention there, and only there. Now, there are many methods of meditation that are designed to help a person maintain attention and train their attention. And some of those recommend using a word or a sound, like Om, as a focus sound to train oneself to keep attention from running wild. Also, repetitive prayers, like the Rosary, can be used to help control our sometimes wayward attention. Any practice that a person uses to train their attention focusing skills can be valuable. Having more control of where we place our attention can help us focus on what is really important and ignore other stuff that is needless, unnecessarily stressful, or even harmful. And that can make life much more enjoyable.